Hello! Welcome back to another obviously very exciting episode of the Not Another Formula One podcast. A podcast for a race that was, quite honestly, pretty trash. What's not trash though? My new office studio that I'm currently recording in. Big hoot and holler to me. I hope to make lots and lots of content in this space. That'll be pretty good. But enough about me. How are you doing, listener? Did you enjoy the race weekend? Did you even watch it at all? If the answer to those questions is no, well then maybe stick around so I can tell you about what happened. The 2025 Chinese Grand Prix started with a bang, a sprint weekend. Now, these sprint weekends, I believe they really do set apart the experienced and inexperienced drivers on this grid because of that singular practice session. And who other than to prove that true than Lewis Hamilton getting pole and the win in his second race for Ferrari. That's great. Fast forward to Sunday though, and we have Oscar Piastri on pole for the first time ever besides two sprint races. But are we really counting the sprint race pole positions? I don't. George Russell in second, Lando Norris in third, Max Verstappen in fourth. The race starts, or the formation lap starts, and for the second week in a row, I noticed Lance Stroll is one of the only people on the completely different tire than anyone else. He starts on the hot tire, along with Ollie Behrman and Liam Lawson, of course. Now, the big question mark going into this weekend was these hard tires, because in the one practice session, nobody used these hard tires, and they weren't used in the sprint race either, or qualifying. So these were the first time they were being used at all. And I guess we'll come to find out they turned out pretty great. So we have the rundown into turn one. George Russell gets a way better start than Oscar Piastri, and even almost gets the edge on him. But Oscar closes the door, and George very wisely backs out of it. And going around turn two, Lando actually gets in on George. Both the Ferrari guys get ahead of Max. Unfortunately, though, Leclerc decides he wants to take way too much curb and runs himself right into the rear tire of Lewis Hamilton, taking off that front end piece of his front wing. Sorry. Now, I don't really know how much 20 to 30 points of downforce really means to the car, but it really didn't seem to matter at all. He carried on, and somehow Ferrari proved to the FIA or the stewards, whoever, that it didn't make a difference. Strange. Gabriel Bortoleto ended up in the dirt. I don't remember who he came in contact with, if he even came in contact with anyone at all, but, turn 1 and 2, very tricky. Very continuous, long, semi-braking, semi-keeping momentum. Very hard. Eventually, Fernando Alonso, his brakes catch on fire, resulting in his second retirement in 2 races. This really puts me to shame, my Constructors' Championship predictions to shame, because I thought for sure Fernando Alonso would be carrying Lance Stroll. It seems to be the entirely other way around. Now, it's not really been so much as Fernando's fault. This was obviously a mechanical error. Sure, in Australia, he might have bended into the wall, but you can't blame him too much for that either. But, man, you hate to see it. You really hate to see Fernando down in the dumps like this. Speaking of down in the dumps, by lap 8, Max was falling almost like 4 to 5 seconds behind the Ferrari guys. And that's not because he was babysitting those tires for a one stop. That car is just weak. It can't run in dirty air. I'm not sure if it can really even run in clean air. He's just keeping it on track in the best, most Max Verstappen way he knows how. And kudos to him for doing such. Come lap 14, 15-ish, I don't know. Everyone pits for the hard tires, or everyone that was on the medium pits for the hard tires. Which brings out birthday boy Alex Albon to carry on with his mediums, and he gets to lead the race, which happens to be the first Williams driver to lead a race in 10 years. Pretty insane stat. Congratulations to the Williams team for actually being competent this season. I wouldn't have thunk that they would get the car to be more adaptable than it's ever been. Esteban Ocon puts about half of his car onto the grass just to pass Kimi Antonelli, creating a giant cloud of dust. Great photo op. Some strange inner team battle between the Ferrari fellas. I think they really need to figure out what's going on with their engineers' communication with their drivers. I feel like Ferrari, they have the great car. They have the great drivers. I think it's the people in the garage that's fucking it all up for them. Because how else do you explain just how lacking their results end up being every weekend? I know we're only 2 races in, but you think more for Ferrari. Certainly my constructors' predictions are, let's just say, not looking great, so great right now. Oliver Behrman, who I'd say was my driver of the day, because he certainly made way more moves than Kimi Antonelli. In fact, can we talk about Kimi Antonelli's driver of the day? Because he really didn't do anything. He finished exactly where he started. Anyways, Ollie Behrman making moves. But now we've got another cheesy catchphrase for a driver with ciao. Ciao. I think this is probably inspired from the Cars movie, if I had to guess, because all these young drivers seem to like the Cars movie. I mean, I get it, I like it too. But, I don't know, ciao. Because every driver needs their own catchy slogan. If we're being totally honest, though, the end of this race was boring as hell. Max was dogging it, though. Seemed to be putting in some really fast laps towards the end, so maybe on light fuel that car seems to come alive a little, or I don't know. It's really a shame also that the fastest lap point isn't a thing, because I don't know, why take away possible championship points? Like, shit, even if someone could get 10th place in the fastest lap, that's double the points than they would have gotten with just getting 10th place. Every point makes a difference. I don't see why they had to take away the fastest lap point. It makes no sense to me. The Racing Bull boys should have had a way much better race, man. If you remember, Yuki's front wing got broken by dirty air. I'm sure they'll look into that and maybe just need some stronger carbon fiber, but yeah, that dirty air from the car in front must just be super vicious if it goes and pops a front wing. The race finishes with Oscar Piastri converting his first ever pole to his third ever win in Formula One, if you count the sprint races. Apparently, Piastri has a little bit of Chinese in his bloodline. So technically, this was a home race win for him. Plus 1,000 social credit to Piastri. Lando brings home second to secure the 50th ever 1-2 for McLaren. Congratulations to them. And George Russell, as per usual, somehow just shows up on the podium, even if it's just the bottom step. Biggest news headlines from after the race, though, was the disqualification of Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and Pierre Gasly. These disqualifications were due to Leclerc and Gasly's cars came in under the minimum weight of 800 kilograms, thus violating Article 4.1 of the technical regulations. And Lewis Hamilton's skid plank was less than the minimum thickness required by Article 3.5.9e of the technical regulations. Fun fact, Leclerc did surpass Sebastian Vettel as Ferrari's all-time scorer with this finish this weekend, but now no longer is with this disqualification. And I just find this to be the most Ferrari thing to ever happen to Ferrari. Now, after these disqualifications, your top 10 finishers of the 2025 Chinese Grand Prix are: in first place, Oscar Piastri. Second, Lando Norris. Third, George Russell. Fourth, Max Verstappen. Fifth, Esteban Ocon. Sixth, Kimi Antonelli. Seventh, Alex Albon. Eighth, Ollie Behrman. Ninth, Lance Stroll. And 10th, scoring his first point for Williams, singular point, Carlos Sainz. In a fortnight's time, we're going across the East China Sea from Shanghai to Suzuka for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix. But before we really get into the Japanese Grand Prix, I'd like to talk about the Liam Lawson situation, because a lot of the headlines going around are that after the first two races of the season, Yuki will replace Liam for the Japanese Grand Prix. Wow, part of me thinks this would be really fucking cool to see Yuki drive for Red Bull in Japan and make his debut for the team there. I really don't think you should be going and kicking Liam Lawson now after two races. I don't, is that really fair to the guy? And we know this car is shit. And apparently more news is that Max has been helping out the engineering department and posted something on Instagram along the lines of something special planned for Japan, which I guess is exciting. Helmut Marko apparently called for an emergency team meeting. God knows what he rambled about. Nevertheless, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Short and sweet. I don't know, do people like short and sweet? Maybe in the future I could go for longer podcasts. It is just a Formula One race. There isn't a whole lot to talk about race-wise. But until then, see you next time. Ciao, even, as Ollie Behrman would say. Bye-bye.